What's up, Snugglebutts? It's your boy, Princess Dank, and I am here today to talk about my second album. Released a little more than 13 months ago, I originally intended to do a reaction to this on stream, and then forgot what day it was originally released. It streamed that day, did not do a reaction to it, and here we go. So anyway, I wanted to take a look back, give a little commentary, and explain some of how this album came to be. So let's just start with the first track, Interior Bedroom Morning, the introduction track. As far as I'm aware, this one was actually the final track that I made for the album. I unfortunately don't have the project files in front of me, but as far as I know, this is the last track that I completed for the album. This one, I was working with some arpeggiated synths that you'll hear in this. I programmed all of the drums rather than using any sort of loop because I really enjoy programming drums. And I wanted to do something that would kind of build over the course of the song, and I'm really happy with how this one turned out. It's perhaps tonally completely different from the rest of the album, but I feel like it works as a solid introduction. Next up, Yinbei, which was one of two songs that I released ahead of time. This one being the only one that wasn't meme bait. I released this one several months before the album, but at the time that I released it, basically the entire thing was completed. Funny thing is that actually this and the 4 songs after it were all constructed in the same project file at the same tempo and then chopped up into separate songs. This 5-song suite, I guess you could call it, was actually completed right around the time that my first album was completed. I finished Giving Lemurs Anxiety, and then within a week or two, half of this album was done. I think these 5 songs were the first thing that I completed, and it really all started from the one melody that I came up with that I really liked. I just kept coming up with variations on it using the same tempo, and then just kind of kept building off of it and on and on and on. So this would have been in February of 2022, 4 months before I even released my first album. Half of this album was done.
Shout out to furries.
Yinbei smash cuts into Dangerously Furry, which is the closest thing to a second half of a song in this suite. The other ones all kind of separate themselves a little bit better, but these two run together, I feel like. This one I was using drum loops on. It's a lot less programmed by hand, but all of the bass lines and all the other synth lines and everything, those were all programmed by hand. It's mostly, like I said, variations on what I was doing in Yinbei, just a little more laid back, a little more spacey, and then toward the end of it, the melody from Yinbei comes back in, and that's why I say these two kind of function as one cohesive song more than anything else going on here.
Dangerously Furry.
The long road home starts with another transition point in this suite that I think this was a electric guitar VST that I was using that I just ran a shitload of distortion through and then put some crazy hectic quick drums, and then it cuts to an almost Donkey Kong Country opening song type drums. This, like the intro, is really just built around me layering tons and tons and tons of different drums and then continuing to use that electric guitar VST to really drown out everything else with distortion. This one is the vibe song of the album, I feel like. The two prior tracks are pretty aggressive, but I feel like by the second half of this one, it's just kind of laid back and vibey. The next one, It's My Nintendo. I took the title for this one from Sir Dumpsalot, who quotes the Game Grumps quite a lot. Shortly before I made this album, we had visited Dumpy, and he kept screaming, "I'm the video game boy, it's my Nintendo." I had downloaded a free VST that emulates the NES chipset, the sound chip, and so I built that one using this, and just, again, some really fast, frenetic drums. And then the suite closes out with the Backyard Wrestling intro song from my lucid dreams. I really just wanted to include one stupidly long title, at least one, and this ended up being the one. This originally had actually some vocal samples toward the beginning of it. I ended up hating how they sounded so much that I just cut all of them out and turned it into an instrumental instead. This one is very spacey. It's very strange, and I think that's where I got the lucid dream part. The title means absolutely nothing otherwise. Okay, after that suite concludes, we're done with the first half of the album. So like I said, the first half is constituted of the last thing that I made, and then all of the stuff that I made in like a week or two at the beginning of working on this project. But then we get into Mad About Pizza 2, Get Madder, which this one I released in August of 2022. So a month before Yinbei, but I definitely made this one after Yinbei. I think the video for this I made in July. I was trying to channel a very specific type of spacey ambient pad with like jungle or D&B drums underneath it. This one is probably the strongest individual track on the album, and I'm very happy with how this one turned out. I want to say I put this together in only a couple of days, and that's something that I feel was really going on with this album. It was a very concentrated period of me putting out really solid, in my opinion, high quality work very quickly. There's a sample in here of one of our cats meowing, paws stretched to sound like screams. Overall, this one is like the thickest, the most girthy of the songs, simply because of how fat the bass is underlying it. I'm really happy with how this one turned out. I'll be hard pressed to never release a project with something that features an almond break very prominently on it, and this is the one for this project. Next up, we have another early creation from the album, Yin Shit. This is supposed to be sort of like a flip of Yinbei. I think I came up with this shortly after the suite of songs earlier in the album, so this would have been February or March of 2022. I just wanted something very, very minimal. I think collectively this had like 3 tracks in the DAW that I use. Something very minimal, something very aggressive, and something very abrasive and vibey, if that makes sense. This is consistently, because, I have access to my Spotify statistics and my YouTube statistics, this is consistently the one song that people skip. This is the least listened to thing. And I think behind Mad About Pizza 2 and Yinbei, this is probably the strongest thing on this project. But I understand, it's very repetitive. At the length of less than 3 minutes, I don't think it really super overstays its welcome, but it's kind of a one-trick pony, so if you don't like it, the first couple of bars, then you're probably not gonna like the whole song. I was really experimenting with putting on a limiter, obviously, so that it doesn't completely blow your speakers out, but pushing the gain on the drums and the like angry B sounds in this song as hard as they could possibly go to make it as blown out and distorted sounding as possible, even more than the electric guitar that you heard in earlier songs. And I'm really happy with how this one turned out. Also, this song, of note, was originally supposed to have vocals on it, but by the time that I got to the end of working on this album, I wasn't comfortable recording vocals yet. I wasn't streaming, I wasn't doing videos, I didn't feel comfortable doing vocals on my music, so I never released the version that had vocals on it. I never even finished writing all of the vocals that I intended for it, so maybe that's something that I'll do in the future. Maybe I'll release another version of this as it was originally intended. My first 2 albums are entirely instrumental, except for incidental vocal samples, and this was supposed to be the first one with vocals on it.
Where have all our lesbians gone?
I wonder that same thing sometimes.
Next up, the 9th track, Biblically Associating with Furry Trash. The sample used here, with permission, is from Matt Presents his video about, oh god, what was the movie called? Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter? Or something like that? I loved this sample so much of him just saying, I ask myself that same question sometimes with regards to where have all our lesbians gone? Absolutely nothing to do with the rest of this song at all. I think the biblically associating may have come with me asking another musician about collaborating, and in the DM, my phone auto-corrected publicly associating to biblically associating, and I asked if they were comfortable biblically associating with furries, so that's probably where this came from. There are, of course, some air raid sirens in this because I love using air raid sirens as a means, as a sort of a riser, that I love the way that they sound, and otherwise, this song is built basically entirely around samples that have been manipulated somehow. I really wanted to have the second project be a wider range of things, which is saying something because the first project was mostly various songs that I had completed over a course of a very long period of time. But I think this was like, I intentionally want to create a bunch of different things in a short period of time, and then they'll have that sort of temporal cohesion, you know, even if sonically they don't have a lot of cohesion. This was me just trying to experiment with making an entire song out of samples, and I'm pretty happy with how this one turned out. This one is more popular in terms of streaming numbers, and that might partially be because of the Matt Presents feature, because I think it got a little bit of traction off of him talking about that, but yeah, I'm happy with how this one turned out. Next up, Haha Bald. There's an Easter egg in this song, and I'm not going to spoil what it is. That's all I'll say about that. This one is built around samples from raw data imported into Audacity, and then further manipulated. On top of that, I added a programmed drum track to give it this weird, like, it's late at night and you're around the dumpster fire, you're having a drum circle vibe. That's kind of where I was going with this. The title is a reference to the Easter egg, and that's all that I'll say about that. second to last track, heartbeat type beat. I think this one I created pretty close to Yin Shit. I wanted to try doing something that was a little bit more ambient. This is the longest track on the album. It's surprisingly one of the more popular ones. This is probably one of my least favorite songs on this album, and it's one of the more popular among listeners. There is a part that I particularly enjoy. It's a little more than halfway through the song. I don't remember what effect VST I was using in my DAW. I found that when I pushed one of the knobs all the way to 100, it would completely cut out the audio, but it wouldn't do it all at once. It would ramp up to cutting it out. This sounds like it is a programmed song, but actually what I did is I programmed the entire length of the song, played it, and recorded it in Audacity while it was playing, manually manipulated that knob to give it that like cutout sound. Because if I had programmed it properly and then just exported it, it wouldn't export the sound in like an organic way, and it wouldn't cut back in the same way, if that makes sense. Toward the end, before it starts to fade out, you get this kind of like deep string tone that starts coming in. And I think that feeds into the final track, which these were not made close to each other, but it makes sense that this is the second to last, and then it feeds into Exterior Rooftop Twilight. I went into this expecting to make an outro. I knew the project was basically done otherwise. I needed an intro, I needed an outro. I wanted the rising drum sounds for the intro, And then I just wanted something that sounded really like a rainy day, sort of, for the outro. Again, similar to the one before this, as repetitive as this is, I feel like it worked out. Almost referencing back to the soundscapes that were on Giving Lemurs Anxiety, this one ends by fading into an actual rainstorm. One note about titles, because I realized that I didn't give exact explanations of titles for every single track. The first and last ones were just, I came up with those off the top of my head. Same with The Long Road Home, the Backyard Wrestling intro song for My Lucid Dreams. Yin Bei I used because I sort of wanted that to be like a nickname for Princess Dank. I never ended up really using it that way, but I thought this was kind of like an emblematic like theme song type thing. Yin Shit is in reference to the lyrics that never got added to the song. Dangerously Furry is in reference to one of the samples that's used in the song. Mad About Pizza 2, Get Matter is in reference to the original version of the song that has audio samples, which obviously I didn't use those samples in the final streaming version of the album. Biblically associating with furry trash, like I said, I think that was an autocorrect mistake. It was supposed to be publicly associating. Haha Bald is in reference to the Easter egg that I'm not going to spoil. And the title of the album itself, The Meme Duchess of West Carolina, this was a title that on the same trip that gave me the name It's My Nintendo, this title was bestowed upon me by Sir Dumpsalot because I was and am the Meme Duchess of West Carolina. So similar to Yin Bei, this was like another name for Princess Dank. So there it is, more than a year later, because of course I can never do anything on time. That is my look back at my second album. I hope that you've enjoyed it. I hope it's given you some insight into whatever this thing is. And yeah, look forward later this year to probably more of these from some of my collaborative projects from 2023. I didn't release any solo projects in 2023, just single songs. I definitely intend to, in 2024, release an entire solo project, but I released several collaborative projects last year that I hopefully will do this type of 1 year later look back on. So stay tuned for those. Thank you for watching, everybody. And don't forget, if you do want to check this out without me rambling over it, it is available for streaming basically everywhere. I'll see you all next time. Thank you, and bye.